Today I'm going to talk about potentially one of the worst days and maybe the day that kinda changed everything for me. The story goes back to a couple of years ago when I was in 6th grade. At that time, my mom had a friend who had a theater class. And she also had this other class where we were sat with others and were shown a movie. And after the movie was finished, everyone would gather up and talk about their interpretation of that movie. As you can probably tell, the concept was pretty fun. The main point of the class was for us to get more familiar with movies and stuff, because most of the kids that attended this class were also the students of her theater class. But I was supposedly there for like the socializing aspect of it. And my first experience of this class was, let's just say, fucking scary. The class was for teenagers, and I was about 13, 14 at the time. But most of the people there were like 16. And don't get me wrong, I was a kind of kid who really bonded with older people. But by old, I mean cool people in their late 20s and like my grandpa's friends. Not cringe teenagers who think they're cooler than what they actually are. Anyways, another problem was that most of the people there were girls. And I was scared of girls. And for good reasons. I was absolutely shit at talking to girls. Now, I wouldn't say I was creepy or anything. I mean, I was like 13, how could I possibly be creepy? But it was definitely awkward. This one time, when we were sat in class, and we were waiting for everyone to come before we start a movie, and then one of the girls showed up. And right away, she started hugging all of her friends. Now, I don't know what kind of buffoonery crossed my excuse for a brain that made me do this, but basically, I opened my arms. I was like, where am I hug at? And she didn't want to seem mean, so she did hug me. But I could see that she did not fuck with that. Anyways, this shit kind of went on for a couple of months. And each month, I did feel a little less awkward. And everything was going pretty good. Till one day, our teacher told us to invite our friends. Which was not exciting for me at all, since not only I didn't have any friends, but it also meant that there were going to be a lot of new people that day, which meant that I would again start feeling anxious. And as I expected, I did. There were a lot of people, much more than the 12-year-old me could have handled. Other than the room being filled to the brim, most things went as usual. Our teacher played the movie, and after watching the movies, we were usually given a break before talking about that movie. And at the start of our break, our teacher went downstairs to grab some stuff. So everyone was kind of messing around on their own. And in this time, I was talking to a couple of new boys that came to the class. And as I'm talking to them, I recognized that one of the new girls, who was like around 16, is coming right in front of me. Then she starts looking at me dead in the eyes and proceeds to say this. Has anyone ever told you how ugly you are? And she didn't whisper it. She didn't say it in a way so that only I could hear it. She said it so loudly to make sure that everyone in that class heard it. And immediately as she said that, right in that moment, I was like, is this really happening to me right now? Mind you, I did not have any interaction with her before this whatsoever. This experience was something that I might have seen in my nightmares. And here it is happening to me in real life. Do you know how your screen looks like in video games when your character is at low HP? That is literally how I remember that moment. Now you might ask, what did you say? Well, I was so stunned that I didn't really say anything. Not that I at least remember. I might have said something along the lines of, what's your problem? What do you want? Or something like that. I do remember the boys there confronting her and being like, hey, that's messed up, what the fuck did you just say? But she didn't say anything after that. She just turned and went back to her seat. And our teacher wasn't even there while this whole thing was going down. So she just got away with it. Even after the teacher did finally show up, I was too embarrassed to tell her. So what do I do instead? I go home and I start crying in my bed. Do you know those silent cries where your mouth is open but you don't actually make any sound? I did one of those. I also remember I spent the whole night watching like OG self-improvement videos. When I tell this story to people, they sometimes say, oh, maybe it was just a dare or her friends forced her to do it. Which is not a valid excuse even in the slightest. Especially when you're a teenager saying this to a little kid. I still don't know the actual reason and motive behind why someone might do something like that. If she simply meant what she said and did, it was most likely because of her own insecurities. It usually is. I just don't know why me. Like, that's the confusing part for me because, as I said, I haven't had any interaction with this girl before that. But you know, sometimes when I look back at this event, I feel kinda glad that it happened. Because even though you shouldn't say or do something like this to anyone, I was kinda not good looking. And this whole situation made me try to look better. Or in newer terms, basically look smacks. And it worked. I do believe that I look a lot better than I did before. I know part of it is just aging and puberty, but regardless of that, I'm also a lot better with girls and people in general. So this whole thing was actually a positive event in my life, if you look at it from this perspective. You know, at the end, it's all about what you learn and how you react to these kind of situations. So let me know what you think or if you have experienced something like this yourself. Also, please follow my Instagram. I'm going to post it once we hit 300 followers. And with that said, thanks for watching. Bye. See ya.